We scaled our business from 150 grand a month to like 4 million a month, all with Facebook ads.
The danger of Facebook ads is real. I just meet so many people who lost money and got burned. And the biggest danger that I've seen is
Meet KWADWO Sampany-KESSIE,
Meta ad strategist,
who will help you scale your online business with Facebook and Instagram ads.
Facebook ads can be one of the most frustrating, maddening, and dangerous things to do incorrectly.
Jesus saves. Facebook ads do not. You cannot make a bad offer good by getting more eyeballs on it. And I keep hearing that, oh, like, I'm going to launch this new product and I just want to get as many people to see it as possible. And I say, no, do not do that. First, look at these things are not easy. We don't just snap our fingers and they happen.
Welcome to another episode of Unlock Your Potential. This is Jeff Lerner, your host. Always so excited to be back having amazing conversations with amazing human beings. So far, the show has been exclusively limited to human beings. Someday I might have to update that intro as we species diversify. But in any case, I don't know why that went through my head to say out loud, but can't take it back. Editors, leave it. Let people know how truly bizarre I am. So anyway, I am joined today by KWADWO, and I'm not even gonna try with the last name. Can you introduce yourself, please, by your full name?
My name is KWADWO Sampany-KESSIE, and I am a meta ad strategist.
KWADWO Sampany-KESSIE. That actually wasn't as brutal as I thought. I call you KWADWO. I just call you KWADWO. So I was a guest on KWADWO's podcast. What's that been? Maybe 2 months-ish?
We recorded 2 months ago, yeah, but your episode went live several weeks ago. It's quite good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I had a great conversation, and it navigated, or I'd say it meandered through a lot of different territory. But what I thought we could do here, it's not very often that you get to talk to someone who is a highly accomplished technical specialist in an area of expertise that is also so broadly applicable to at least this show's audience, which is primarily entrepreneurs. And so in this case, we're talking, obviously, as you mentioned, about meta ads. Meta meaning Google and Facebook and Instagram, and
yeah,
I suppose theoretically WhatsApp, if that's a thing. But Meta, the company formerly known as Facebook. And so I thought that what we could do is actually have like a really strategic masterclass here on Facebook ads. Facebook ads, I think, are one of the, I know they're meta ads. If you'll just allow me to call them Facebook ads,
I call them Facebook ads, and people say you have to work on your messaging so people understand it's Facebook and Instagram, but old habits die hard. Keep going.
Okay, cool. So I will just say from personal experience that Facebook ads can be one of the most frustrating, maddening, and dangerous things to do incorrectly, because they just will spend your money. But also, having scaled a business that at one point, before we even turned on Google ads, all we used was Facebook ads, and we scaled our business several years ago from, we were doing maybe 150 grand a month. Even that was off of Facebook ads, but it had just been testing and kind of slowly building. But once we knew we had it dialed in, we went from maybe 150 grand a month to like 4 million a month in revenue in a little over a year, all before we ever turned on Google ads, all with Facebook ads. So like, there aren't that many things that a person can say, I used one channel singularly to 3,000% grow my business in a year. So I'm here to speak to the danger. I'm also here to speak to the power. And so with that in mind, KWADWO, are you open to spending the next 20 minutes asking and answering, or getting asked some questions about Facebook ads?
Sure. Let me give some context, because the
Please.
Danger of Facebook ads is real. And many people, probably not you, but many people assume that because I am a Facebook ads manager, I will preach everyone should do Facebook ads, but that is not true. And the biggest danger that I've seen is it's because people come to me and say, I've tried ads and I failed. It spent all my money. And so I want to start this with a warning that boosting a post on Instagram is not running Facebook ads. Yes, it is technically giving Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, money, but that has nothing to do with running Facebook ads in the way that's designed to generate profit for your business. Instagram loves to, like, they're so seductive. They're like, this reel is reaching way more people than your other content recently. Go ahead and hit that boost button and show it to more people who would like it. But the problem with that is that it attracts people to your Instagram profile, some of which will follow you, but almost none of which, unless you're quite strategic with your posts, will actually end up coming onto your email list and doing business. And yes, like, we can talk about marketing in the long game of multiple touches and exposure, like with you and the value you provide, but ultimately, I just meet so many people who lost money and got burned. So that's the first part of the warning. The second part of the warning, because we want to get strategic here, is make sure your business is showing signs, the correct signs, that your offer could work with Facebook ads before you even start. The listener, obviously, not you, Jeff, because you've already done this or had a team do it for you. But one of these biggest signs is, I always love to say, Jesus saves, Facebook ads do not, meaning you cannot make a bad offer good by getting more eyeballs on it. And I keep hearing that, oh, like, I'm going to launch this new product and I just want to get as many people to see it as possible. And I say, no, do not do that. First, look at, is the offer selling? And if the audience is smaller, well, look at how you sell it. When you send emails to your list,
KWADWO just texted me that they lost power. I'm not going to end the episode. So if you're listening, keep listening. Who is this episode going to be for and who isn't it? If you're a regular listener of the show, you might be like, I don't come here for in-depth conversations about something as narrow as Facebook ads. In which case, I will not be offended. Feel free to go listen to an older episode or catch it next week. But for the people that this is relevant for, I know, like, I remember there was a day when I was ready to go. I had a thing, I felt like it was right, and I was ready to take it to the world. And Facebook ads are the very natural place to start when you are at that point, as KWADWO's referencing. And that point, that line is, it is an extremely exciting, but also extremely nerve-wracking line when you're like, okay, I'm going to go into the spending money by the hour business to promote this thing that I've spent all this time working on and getting ready. And whether you're there and you're ready, or you're not there yet, but you're in the audience and you're working on building a thing, and you know that at some point you're going to be ready to really take the governor off, this is a critical inflection point in your entrepreneurial trajectory. And I think it's worth having a focused conversation about. So if you are that person and this is relevant to you, I not only encourage you to tune in, but I also encourage you, maybe share this with somebody. If you're part of any sort of community or social group of people that are early stage entrepreneurs, or people that are, working hard on a thing that they think can make a difference in the world, and they're going to want to debut it at some point, this could be a really, really valuable conversation. You're probably experiencing this as it's been directly stitched to the intro, but for KWADWO and I, that was like a week ago. Because of some technical difficulties and an interruption, we truncated that episode or that recording and called that the intro and came back to finish the body of the show. So here we are. KWADWO, I don't know that we can promise the audience perfect, like, seamless congruency from the intro, since that was like a week ago, and we've had Labor Day weekend since then.
We can promise value. But
we'll go for value. Yeah. So I do remember that we had just gotten into talking. We were kind of setting the table for a conversation about Facebook ads and the meta advertising ecosystem, and how that's, for a lot of the audience, that's going to be hyper relevant. For some of the audience, maybe not. And if that's you, then, we'll see on the next episode. But like, I know our audience, and I know there's a huge swath that would love a primer conversation on Facebook ads. And so we had just gotten kind of into how there's a certain amount of validation you want to have in place of your offer before you decide to take it to Facebook ads. And maybe we can retouch on that, and you can kind of establish what you're trying to make sure people were clear on with that.
Yeah, essentially, an offer has to be selling before we put Facebook ad money, because we're in business to make money with our offer, right? And Facebook ads cannot save a bad offer. And so the listener just wants to make sure, however they're launching or selling their offer, be that through emailing their huge email list monthly or working with affiliates, like in a joint venture kind of launch style, or maybe they're at the point where their offer is just selling like hotcakes because they're putting it in their Instagram stories and then doing kind of hand-to-hand DM like follow-up sequence to sell. But we got to have proof of concept here before we consider Facebook ads, and then going one step further, starting from looking at your offer and trying to gauge how much your leads are worth. And what I mean by that is like, how many eyeballs does it take on your offer to sell? If you're, say, putting, like, this is something I did way back in the day when I had a group coaching program, and I sold it primarily from Instagram, but I tracked those numbers, so I knew I had to post X number of Instagram stories to get Y number of Instagram DMs. And then of the number of DMs that I would get, then I also tracked what percentage of those I could close into a discovery call. And then of my discovery calls, I knew how many I needed to have in order to make a sell. And I associated value, like the revenue generated from that, with that step, that final sell step, and then backed up those numbers so that I knew approximately how much every story was worth, and then I just posted it. And so the concept here is we need to know how much money we're making, yes, and then how much each of those leads coming through the funnel is worth, and just establish that there is indeed a profit per lead. And depending on the way the listener is marketing, that might be harder or easier to come down to an exact number, but still it's worth the homework, because if there's healthy profit per lead, then we're basing that decision to start Facebook ads in data, because when we start running Facebook ads and we're getting leads into the funnel, if you will, then we're going to have a cost per lead. And as long as there's a healthy gap, which is what we want for everyone listening, a healthy gap between that cost per lead and that profit per lead, let's call it cost per lead and earnings per lead gap, which equals profit, then we have a good sign that we can start Facebook ads and have a big chance of winning, because that's what we're here to do.
Okay, so two follow-up questions to that. One is, do you have because if somebody's, sort of initially launching their business through, you mentioned Instagram stories, that's not a paid, there's no cost associated with Instagram stories. So, obviously you have a cost to deliver the goods. You might have some cost of sales depending on who's actually closing the deal or whatnot, but you don't have any direct customer acquisition cost in that model. So, it's kind of hard to quantify, well, what is the gap? Because there's no cost, right? So right. Do you have sort of a heuristic or like general guidance to say, like, how do you measure success on an offer with organic customer acquisition to feel sufficiently confident that it's going to translate to paid customer acquisition?
Right. Maybe I didn't say it clear enough. So for organic, first of all, it's wonderful. If you can pull it off, great. There is no cost to acquire a lead. So you just want to take the final revenue numbers that you're generating and back those up and figure out what kind of revenue you're generating per lead. And because Facebook ads, the disclaimer that I'm going to say is any number I give for like a cost per lead for Facebook ads is completely irrelevant to the listener's business, because these numbers vary across all niches, and even inside of one niche, they vary between businesses. And it's dependent on how good the offer is, how good the messaging is, and how good the ads are. All that being said, if I know that, whatever actions that bring in leads give me a revenue per lead of, let's say, $20, then I can be confident, because I've seen for a bunch of different clients, that we could get cost per leads, if we're running ads, of around $5, just to use numbers that are easy to work with. And so then even if somebody is just starting out organically, as long as they're selling, they can find out what that revenue per lead number is. Or back to the Instagram stories example, maybe it's you're tracking revenue per like Instagram story that you're posting, or at least you're tracking revenue per DM that you're having to sell your thing. If you have a big email list, when you send out that email, you want to see what percentage of people opened it. And then, if you have 1,000-person email list and 30% of the that 1,000 are opening it, I believe that's 30 people, right? Yep, 30 people. Okay, and then of those 30 people that opened the email, how many people clicked through? All email CRMs will track that, and then you look at your sales, and you can still have a number that you can assign, like amount of revenue to an amount of lead or the number of eyeballs that see offer.
So if somebody's say, gonna approach a media buyer, say, hey, I think I'm ready to try running Facebook ads. I feel like what you're saying is you should be able to strike up that conversation with some baseline metric in mind to be able to say that correlates an amount of revenue to some repeatable action, whether it's a DM or a story post or an email opt-in or a link click or something where you can say, hey, Mr. Facebook buyer, this is what I know. This offer produces this much revenue per this action. And then they can advise if, oh, okay, well, I think that sounds like there's some margin there. We should be able to run Facebook ads. Or they might say, well, a dollar in revenue per email opt-in, that offer, you need to beef up the offer before it's worth trying to run Facebook ads.
Exactly. And that empowers the owner, the course owner, to come with and enter the conversation with the media buyer, if you will, the Facebook, the Meta ad manager, and ask them what they think. Because I guess I've seen before where somebody will have an offer that's not proven and they'll come to me and I'll tell them, hey, this might not be the best route for you because the offer hasn't been proven and I have a monthly management fee. Let's make sure that we set you up with, a few strategies that you can do beforehand so that there's a better chance of making profit. And I would hope, any Facebook ad manager should be able to tell you the same thing. If you say, hey, looks like I'm making $15 per lead. Is this feasible? The right kind of people will say, yeah, that's feasible. Or actually, I've seen in your niche, it's not quite feasible, but here's some steps that you could do with your funnel.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're dead in the water. It might mean, that this is where it gets a little consultative. They might say, oh, well, your info product is generating X dollars per lead. Yeah. But if you could get 30% of your info product buyers or your e-com shoppers or whatever to maybe upgrade to a higher price premium upgrade or something, then that would do this to your revenue per action. Yeah. And then that dog would hunt with Facebook ads, so to speak. And so there's an optimization and a business development conversation that can be had. It's not binding. It's not strictly like yes or no. Okay. So great starting point.
I will add.
Yeah, please.
Quickly, I will add, not every Facebook ad manager can have that conversation because there's plenty of us that just specialize in the ads and not the funnel. But I'm also not the only Facebook ad manager that also used to wear a coaching hat or knows funnel strategy. And so as long as the listener finds a Facebook ad manager who does understand funnels too, and there's plenty of them, including me, then you can have that conversation. Of course, don't abuse my Facebook ad management friends and turn a discovery call into a 2-hour-long consultation. So but still, those kind of questions are good to ask, and that conversation is one that should be had.
I mean, look, if you're a big, Fortune 500 company that has, all your unit economics hyper dialed, and you just need a grunt to buy media for you, then okay, that's the exception to what I'm about to say. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, and I've worked with a lot of Facebook ad buyers and a lot of media buyers in general. I don't enjoy working with ones that don't also really understand business fundamentals, product fundamentals, funnel mechanics. You just end up teaching them how to do their job. Yeah. And so I don't know, that's my take. I think you actually should just sort of insistently find a media buyer that can have those conversations. But that's just my one man's perspective. Okay. But I do have actually two other questions related to this. One is, a lot of times when people are in kind of early validation stage of an offer, they tend to be working with a warmer audience. Like maybe they're making story posts to people that follow them on Instagram, or they're making organic YouTube videos that are more value-based, but they still have some kind of a call to action or maybe a link in the description. But essentially they're talking to people that already know who they are. Mm-hmm. We both know, massive difference when you start targeting what's called cold traffic, people who don't know you from Adam. which is most people on Facebook or any large platform. And so do you have any sort of adjustments in your formulas? You say, oh, well, if it's doing this with a warmer audience or on this particular platform or with this type of content, here's how we might adjust that applied to cold Facebook traffic for purposes of the math equation.
For the math, that's a tougher one.
Or just in general, how do you handle that consideration that it's going to be a different traffic type?
Well, sure. In general, the conversions are going to drop quite a bit when you're sending ad traffic to cold traffic, if you will. That's just a generality, but it's always true because the know, like, and trust factor isn't there. So in general, you need a longer funnel. In general, not in general, every time your messaging has to be tested. And that's just how it is. People who love and like you don't need as good messaging. People who don't know you, they need ultra clear messaging, and when I say test messaging, if there's a problem that the course creator solves, they, number one, know how to communicate that problem. So,
and by the way, you've said course creator twice, but this isn't only true of course creator offers.
Anyone.
To be clear, yeah. Okay.
Anyone with an offer that they're going to sell, that messaging has to be dialed. Okay, so an offer could solve one or two problems, but which one is the problem that people are really coming for? And then what frustrations result from that problem? There could be 5 or 6 different frustrations that result from the problem of not having an obedient dog, right? And so I purchased this dog training program. But of those 5 or 6 frustrations, which are the ones that drive the most interaction organically? Because those are probably going to be the ones that drive the most interaction when you put ads behind it. And if you look at things like link click-through rate, for example, and just cost per result inside of Facebook Ad Manager, you can see over time, because you use those metrics to test your messaging, what one of those frustrations are the ones that actually sell, as in motivate somebody who needs your help to go ahead and get your help. And that's the kind of process that has to happen. Let's call it a purification of the messaging.
So what I heard you say is that when you switch from warm traffic to cold traffic, or warmer traffic to less warm traffic, let's call it, I know it's a spectrum, it's not a binary, that your conversions will always decrease. In other words, of 1,000 people, a smaller number of them will buy your thing. That makes sense because they don't know you. Does your revenue per customer also tend to decrease? In other words, yes, fewer people will buy, but of the people that do buy, do they tend to buy less if they were cold versus warm? Or is it like once they cross the paywall, then a customer tends to be a customer regardless of source?
Well, yeah. Once they pay, they pay. So like the customer value doesn't change because they're buying the course that's priced the same as it always was.
Well, I mean, let's say you have like a value ladder that has maybe a low ticket and a mid ticket and a high ticket. Do you find that once you cross over to colder traffic, they'll be less likely to upgrade the value ladder?
No, I don't find that. As long as we're talking about the same thing, let's call the value ladder, I'm referring in this case to a secret series of email upsells. Let's call it a secret list, if you will. And so that, after somebody purchases the first course there, as long as that email sequence that says, hey, you got this course, you might need this next course, is done right, it should perform in the same way because your first offer is valuable. And as long as you're doing a good job of teaching that person and delivering the value that offer was meant to do, then they have been warmed up just like a warm audience person would. And so then they're going to receive that messaging that follows that offer in a series of emails. And they should respond the same as a previous person who purchased that was in your warm audience, because everybody's really warm once they actually buy something from you and get success from what they came for.
That sums it up. That everybody's warm once they're a buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So then I'm curious. Do you have, when somebody comes to you to court your services, let's say, or entertain the idea of taking their offer and bringing it onto Facebook, what would you say are kind of the things that in a perfect world, they would have already done these things before they came to you to minimize friction and accelerate the process and maximize the probability of success to get it right onto Facebook.
Wow. Okay. So in a perfect world, they've already looked at, and I'll say Instagram, though, whatever the platform is, if it's YouTube, if it's Pinterest, if it's Facebook, if it's Instagram, if it's Twitch, because some people sell live on Twitch, they've already looked at their organic platform and just taken time to see what posts and what kind of messaging is performing well. And when I say what kind of messaging, the topics of the messaging, if they pay attention to the kind of hooks they're using, then the kind of hooks they're using, of course, the frustration points, maybe it's the points of education that they're providing in their long form YouTube videos. Either way, they they do understand when I talk about this, good things happen. As in my email list grows because lots of people go down and get the free lead magnet, or people go down and get the low ticket offer. Second thing that they would want to do is if they have an opt-in page for a free lead magnet, that could be a white paper, it could be a page that goes directly to a scheduler to book a discovery call. It could be what have you, a PDF, a video series. But hopefully they've already gone through and done the basics to optimize that page, made sure that all of their call to action buttons are the same color and that color is not used anywhere else on the page. Make sure that their first call to action button shows up above the fold if you want. On the first screen of a cell phone. Speaking of cell phones, most people these days are viewing pages from mobile devices, so we want to make sure that that first page looks good on a cell phone even. So they've increased their conversion rates there, and then they've gone the next step and said, okay, this email sequence that delivers this free thing, if you will, and if they're launching, it applies to the emails that go out when somebody registers for that live webinar or workshop. They want to make sure those emails are getting opened at a rate that's pretty good. Like 5% open rate means that's horrible. Let's work on the subject lines. 30, and I'm talking cold traffic here. Right. 30% open rate is stellar, and then you look at your click-through rate in the email, and if people are opening but not clicking through to whatever you're selling or providing, then it's like, how many times are we putting that link in the email? If it's only at one time, like in the very bottom, let's add it to like the very top of the email because everyone's attention span is short. And so without going into a bunch of detail, those kind of steps to optimize the percentage of conversions that happen in somebody's funnel are steps that anyone listening right now can do and like concretely expect to just have more opportunities, because I believe selling is serving. So more opportunities to serve more people with the gifts and passions that they were blessed with just by looking at their funnel and increasing conversions, working on like doing the fundamentals, and then looking at their messaging in their organic content just with an eye to see what's working. Let's do more of that and do less of what people aren't responding to.
Do you ever, you and then also, generally speaking, media buyers, ever take on somebody who's like, hey, I don't think this is ready for Facebook, or maybe you can help me assess if it is or not, but could you help me maybe get it there? Like, do you ever take, in our lexicon, we would call it like a conversion rate optimization engagement. Do you ever do that where you say, hey, look, I don't think you're ready to buy media through me, but as a separate service, maybe I can help you get there? Or do you refer out? Or like, how do people that, I'm asking generally for the audience, like if they're like, well, I just don't think it is ready, but I need help. How do you advise them?
So I definitely made, in my early Facebook ad management days, I made the mistake of working with people who had let's call it a fledgling offer, or they did have some organic sales, but it really hadn't been proven. And I wasn't able to serve them as well with Facebook ads, which has led me to the point now where if somebody hops on a call with me, I'm asking them like, oh, how well does your funnel convert? How do you launch your offer? How well has it sold? So if somebody doesn't have the offer fully developed, or they're not to the point where it's selling as well, depending on the situation, I'll just refer them to a specialist. And when I say specialist, I still do coach established online course creators, but we're more in the realm of optimizing a funnel that works rather than get your first offer launched off the ground. But there are plenty of business coaches and strategists that work with people who are developing a brand new offer, in which case I refer to them because they're a specialist. Now, if somebody already has an offer that's doing well and just not quite Facebook ads well, then I take that on a case by case basis.
So, separate question. If somebody has an offer that they think is working, they say, I made a YouTube video and they caught, the algorithm gave me 2,000 views and 20 of those people clicked the link in the description, and at an average, revenue per click of $100. So I made $2,000, let's say, right? How do you help them sort of gauge for scalability? Because my experience says there's different economics at different scales that you can have one video that maybe generates $2,000 in organic revenue, but that doesn't necessarily, let's say I sign up with a media buyer that has a, I don't know, a $3,000 a month minimum retainer plus 10% of ad spend, then there's a certain amount of scalability that has to be true in the offer for it to actually grow to the point where that retainer fee is offset at the scale of the performance of the offer. So do you have any formulas or methods to help people assess and say, hey, yeah, this is doing well at a small scale, but this is how we can anticipate that it will also scale such that it'll be worth engaging in paid media buying?
That would be more complicated than I think the scope of this interview allows. But what I will say is here's the path to success in that situation. Because while a media buyer that charges a percent of ad spend, that's probably a case where you're spending a lot of ad spend already. And so that percentage of ad spend, it's part of a fee, usually applies to people who are spending thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month. But for somebody who's spending, let's say, between $1,000 and $10,000 a month, at least in my mind and the way I charge, there's no percentage of ad fee. It's just a very affordable monthly retainer fee. Now, for the listener who's how do I make sure I can budget in ad spend plus the monthly retainer fee? It's really quite simple. You have a two-pronged approach. You have your funnel that you run ads to. And when I say funnel, it's either a lead magnet, that might have some an upsell on the thank you page that's paid, or very traditionally that lead magnet that then nurtures people with an email sequence into maybe a twice yearly or 3 times a year conversion event, a launch event, if you will, a live webinar, a 5-day challenge, what have you. So you have that's converting well, but then you also have this low ticket self-liquidating offer funnel where you've taken, let's say, the most common questions that people are asking you in your core offer, and you pull those out and you develop a small offer around that. This is crucial, and I usually ask people if they have it, because if they do already have it, then we can scale that with Facebook ads and see profit on the front end. And so then what I mean is we're running ads directly to a $27 offer, then we can get it working. And then the first goal is that all ad spend is recouped. Great. We're breaking even, and now we're adding people to our list, very highly qualified buyers to our list, right? And then the next milestone is continue scaling up until the ads manager's fee is covered. And that is a beautiful thing. Several of my clients have that right now. I think on the low end, one lady is right around 1.5 ROAS. And on the high end, I haven't had extraordinarily high returns, but I have a client who's getting almost 2.7 ROAS, as in they're giving $1 into the funnel and we're getting $2.70 out of it, so to speak. And with this client, we're spending now, actually, I just increased the ads again. We're spending slightly over $400 a day. And it's wonderful. Some people might be oh, that's too much money. You, Jeff, has probably spent way more money than that a day. But for somebody who's just starting, that seems like a lot. But hey, it doesn't matter, because at the front end of that funnel, there's a good return on the ad spend. And so that's how we approach it. As long as you have free lead magnet or an established launch funnel and an SLO funnel that's generating revenue, then you can scale that and cover your ads management fee.
Okay, so a couple acronyms I'm going to unpack for people. ROAS means return on ad spend.
Yeah.
It just, like you said, it means I spend this much money on ads, how much revenue comes out. And then you also talked about this concept of a self-liquidating offer that is, I think, important for people to understand that, and actually really, I just learned something. So you're saying, I'm going to actually say it back to you, make sure I got it right. So you're saying, well, I'll even use myself as an example. I'm about to launch a new offer that's, we're actually leading with a free masterclass. And then from there, we have inside, once they come into the platform, there's a $27 challenge that they can self-select to upgrade to.
Okay.
And then we have, we play a long game, right? Like we have a long, developmental ecosystem. I mean, we have people can buy real estate through our platform. So, I mean, we have this big back end, right? But so we're not maybe a traditional, $1,000 course or something, but still what you're saying is, that's we have our main process that we run. That's our core business. But you're saying that what we could do is figure out almost create a little micro product based on, the top 5, in our case, we have a life design offer, which is life design is our proprietary fusion of entrepreneurship and personal development, because we believe that it's irresponsible to do either without the other anyways. But we could say okay, let's take the top 5 personal development challenges that entrepreneurs face, or the top 5, key lessons that entrepreneurs need to learn to be successful that don't have to do with specifically with business itself, and create a little micro product that maybe we sell for $9.95 and just run that as a standalone offer that's not even designed to make money. It's just designed to liquidate itself, i.e. cover its own cost of ads. And in so doing, because it's a lower dollar, higher volume type of offer, we just build a giant list essentially at no cost. And now we have a giant list that we can promote the main offer to. Did I get it right?
Very correct. You have coaching calls as part of your program, right?
Yeah. We have what we call 90-day circuits, which is a life design coaching process. But yes.
There you go. So those questions that are being answered, and I'm sure being transcribed, you feed those transcriptions to AI, so you can figure out what are the questions that are always being asked. As long as you have enough data, then you look and you make an offer around that. Like a very rudimentary example could be okay, life design, but what are the 5 things that I can do to make my month better or bring my month more in alignment with my dream so that I have a better chance of achieving it? That's $27. And then you want to add in an upsell, an order bump that just makes no-brainer sense. I'm thinking maybe if I'm coming to you with 5 things that I can use to tweak my month so I can be on track to achieve my dreams, however that is, then probably makes sense for me at the checkout to click something that's a planner,
Yeah.
So I can plan it out, plan out my week for success too. Now that I got these concepts and I know what I'm going after, and then maybe on the upsell page, the next page after I click that order bump and put in my credit card information, is your main offer at a very limited time discount, or just another offer, or maybe it's a coaching call, what have you. But what I see is with these self-liquidating offers, they can, I won't say easily, because these things are not easy. We don't just snap our fingers and they happen. They take testing and research. But the chances of it being profitable are increased when there is a very aligned order bump right there on the checkout page and a very aligned upsell.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. So, and the beauty, again, to sort of highlight for the audience, and this has been the holy grail since I started marketing online in 2008, is that you're always looking for a way to just cover your ad spend as quickly as possible, because then you're basically building the most valuable asset that you possibly could for free, which is your list. Real quick, I want to let you know about my text message community. So I use text messages to provide unique value to my podcast listeners. These texts can just be random thoughts. It can be letting you be the first to know about an event I'm planning or some free training that I'm planning to host for the community. Just shoot me a text to get subscribed to the list. The number is 702-996-39 3926. Again, that number is 702-996-3926. Now let's get back to the podcast.
I had a number of clients with this issue. And so I'll give like 3 examples. There's one guy, we'll just call him H. He's an architect. And we were running ads, but he didn't see the return on ad spend. And the reason is because he had a very successful workshop that he was only launching once or twice a year. And so my advice to him was, these leads are coming in. Let's have your workshop more frequently. But his business was a lifestyle business set up to complement his life. And he was okay with just launching or just having this paid workshop, tons of value, once a year. And so at the end, it didn't make sense to keep working with me, though I'm doing a great job getting him leads, because it was taking too long for the value of those leads to be realized, Another example of a client, and maybe the listener can relate, like this client, we just developed actually, and we're still testing, a self-liquidating offer. This client is in the glamping industry. Lots of people go to this client to learn how to start a successful glamp ground, and we came up with the idea, why don't we have a profit calculator, since he's done several successful projects around glamping or boutique hotels, right? And people come to him with the goal and vision of turning their land into a glamp ground. So why didn't he, what he did, not why didn't, he did, at the time of this recording, we're in our 3rd week of testing this, but we made the calculator that he uses internally available for sale, and we're running ads to it. And we're also using it as an upsell for it to test a new product that he's coming out with, a group coaching program. And so that might, hopefully those 2 stories spark ideas in the listener's mind about how this could work for their business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like find the little thing that you can deliver more easily and at higher scale, and build your list with that. So, okay, then let me ask you this: how do you? Are there any things that you look at in an offer, or that you want to see an offer owner having kind of pre-vetted or thought through, or structurally? I don't, different sort of dimensions to the question, but around fulfillment, I know multiple stories from speaking to service providers, both on the ad management side, also sometimes on the sales service side. This happens too, where they actually they're too successful, and they work their way out of a gig because they generate more leads or more customers than the offer owner is able to fulfill. And the offer owner says, no, shut it down. I got too many customers. So how do you pressure test people's ability to scale fulfillment so you don't become a victim of your own success?
I think, so this is theoretical, because I have not, from my response is theoretical, because I haven't personally run ads to somebody who couldn't scale their offer along with like the extra people coming in, because lots of the times my clients, like my best client, it has a course, and we say, like, between you and me, DIY, although usually the person buying the course doesn't like to hear that it's DIY, but the name of the game usually is having a course that is DIY, but that is so customized and dialed in that somebody feels like you've already thought of everything for them, and they have to put in very little effort, although you and I know it does take effort for somebody to go through a course, like they have to apply. So if somebody is worried about not being able to scale their service, then when they get to, I don't know, 70%, 80% capacity, or when they realize that they're closing a lot of their discovery calls, it's probably time to, if they are the one delivering that service and they can't scale, it's probably time to increase their prices so that they can serve people who really need their service, and in the process make a lot more doing so. And it's a win-win for the customer and them, rather than what you just said, which is all of a sudden they have too many clients because they haven't raised their prices and they can't deliver their service anymore, and thus their income can't increase. Does that kind of
Oh
Is that kind
yeah.
of where you were going?
Oh yeah. I love it. I love that you said, look, if you can't scale fulfillment, raise your prices. Cause like
Yeah.
something's got to give one way or another.
And the
Um,
customer is, I've seen people who, I mean, this is the very, this process happens to many folks. Like if they're going from a one-on-one service provider, or even just they're skilled at what they do. And so the first thing they do is decide to give consultation calls, basically like hop on an hour with me and I will fix your problem in whatever niche because I've been doing it for 20 years, right?
mhm.
And so like that person will cap out. And when they increase their prices, what happens is I'm sure you've experienced this before, where you're good at what you do and people come to you, but you realize that a lot of the questions that you're answering for you just aren't that stimulating. For them, it's mind blowing, but for you, it's like, I get this question all the time and I answer it and it's super simple. Just go ahead and do XYZ and you'll have the breakthrough. And so what usually happens is when you increase your prices, you get people that have more unique problems where you can give more of yourself into and make a bigger impact. One, and then two, you just take all the regular types of questions that you're getting, and maybe you make a course that addresses those and provides
Mhm.
great value for it. And now you can scale further, or you decide I'm not going to coach someone one-on-one anymore. I'm just going to find a group of people and, every 8 weeks or 6 weeks, take people through the transformation, and thus I can leverage it that way. But again, I know you know all this. The listener might be like, oh,
No, this is
yeah.
this is great. Yeah, but it's interesting too, when I used to have an agency, a marketing agency, and we would run into this with a lot of like brick and mortar business owners. And
Oh,
we run into I don't do agency services online for online offer owners, but I hear of the same type of thing where they actually they cap out on their ability to fulfill,
mhm.
and they don't want to raise their prices because basically they feel bad. And they think that, or they're convinced that if they raise their prices, that it's going to all of a sudden nobody's going to be able to afford their services, even though too many people can afford their services at the current price. And I just want to, so I'm just going to, speak from my point of view that
Say it.
like, yes, there will be someone that cannot afford your product at a higher price. There will also be someone else that was not interested in your product at the lower price.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
to your point, it's probably, I don't want to say it's a better customer because I think that might offend some people. It's a more interesting customer because it's a more bespoke relationship that actually places a higher value on your level of expertise. And within your level of expertise, you can always create a product that can serve the customer that can't afford the higher price
Mhm.
in a way that is affordable to them, because it, like you said, it can be spread across more people. Like take your service that you're afraid to charge more money for, charge more money for it. And then if you feel guilty for doing so, create a different service that still takes care of the person at the lower price, but that doesn't require so much of you and that isn't as hard to scale.
Or just get over feeling guilty. Like a lot of this, we've gone through like this mindset growth. And like when I remember when I heard this the first time, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is just a mindset thing. And I need to get over my mindset and increase my prices. But it's so true
Mm.
that, first of all, like we would be naive, you and I, to think that we're the only ones that do what we do in our niche. Maybe at your level, you really have something truly unique. I'll speak for myself. I'm not the only meta ads manager out there that also knows like horse coaching. And so if I choose to raise my prices, there's always somebody that
Yeah.
needs my service, within reason at the price point that I'm offering it. And it does allow me to work with somebody who I'm making more impact in their business. And I love, and I have clients who maybe they'll only spend $2,000 a month on ads. That's fine. And we get them leads and they're able to serve more people with their passion. But then I've had a handful of clients, though, who were spending $40,000 a month in ads. Their businesses were at a much bigger scale. They may have had a bunch of different offers, and a really established ascension model where somebody comes in at one offer and they know exactly what offer that person needs next. And the group coaching the DIY course feeds into the group coaching program, which feeds into the mastermind. And I know that by helping that kind of client, I'm able to make a bigger impact, not just in their business, but in the number of people's lives that they're able to serve. And so it really just comes down to knowing that you have a passion, and if you're good at it, you'll be able to serve people with it. And as you either scale your services or scale your prices, you'll be able to provide for yourself and make a more impactful difference in the people's lives that you serve. Because also there's this weird thing that happens that we place value on the price of something that we pay for it. And we tend to take more precious action on the things that cost us dearly, if not just because I'm like, oh, shoot, that was like, I don't know, $6,000. I better bust my butt and get a return on my investment. And that's what, it's not just me who says that. So many coaches and course providers say that about their clients. Like, the more the people who pay the most are the ones who are most invested and get the best results. So you're helping people better. You're serving people more.
You're literally doing them a favor in many cases by charging them more. I love that. Okay, so listen, we are out of time. This has been everything I hoped it would be. I'm literally going to refer people to this episode. Say, hey, you're thinking about Facebook ads, want to learn about Facebook ads, go listen to my conversation with KWADWO. If you would, let's close by you sharing with the audience how they can come learn more about you, learn more from you, or perhaps procure your services.
Okay, cool. So we'll go from free to ads management. If you're exploring ads and just these kind of business concepts are resonating with you, just come over to either on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, The Art of Online Business, because I'm interviewing a different business owner every week. And I'm also sharing Facebook ad tips every week. So that's 3 weekly episodes of just this kind of well-rounded conversation that you and I are having. The listener can get that. The Art of Online Business podcast. And then if somebody is, let's say you have ads that are already running and you just want my eyeballs on your ads in the form of a coaching call to make your ads work better, because for whatever reason you're not ready to hire an ads manager, we can do that. One-on-one coaching, that is fine. And if you are thinking about meta ads, like having someone like me run your meta ads, or I'm sorry, if you have an ads manager and they're doing less than a stellar job, come to theartofonlinebusiness.com and fill out an intake form and we can chat.
Fantastic. Well, KWADWO, I'm really grateful for your time, and I'm glad we were able to close the loop from last week and bring this home, man. Thanks for being here.
Sure. I appreciate it's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, to all you viewers and listeners, you know what I'm going to say. You're the best part of this show. You're why we do it every time. So glad we got this time together. Can't wait till next time. Take care.
If you loved that episode, then you're definitely going to love this one. Check it out.
Fundamentally, there are only two important functions in a company. Somebody's got to make it and somebody's got to sell it. And that's Apple. Steve Wozniak makes it, Steve Jobs sells it. And everything else you can hire or you could postpone. If you cannot make it as an engineer, you better be good in sales.